My family humiliated me for 20 years for not being like my perfect sister. But when I got engaged to my company's CEO, they showed up demanding money and a luxury wedding. I recorded them trash talking me and planning to steal $50,000. And what I did left them exposed and destroyed. I'm 23 years old. I work as a software engineer and graphic designer, and a few months ago I married the love of my life, who happens to also be the CEO of the company where I work. Sounds like a fairy tale, right? Well, the truth is that everything that happened before getting here was basically a nightmare. And I need to tell this story because what my family did to me for years, and especially what they tried to do to me when I finally achieved something in life, still has me processing a lot of emotions. I guess I should start at the beginning. I grew up in a family where, my parents were super academic, both college professors, and they always had this obsession with perfection and appearances. The problem is that I never fit into their perfect mold. I have an older sister, Caroline, who's 25 now, and she was like everything my parents wanted. She was beautiful. I mean, the type that people would turn to look at on the street. She got straight A's in everything, was popular, basically the perfect daughter, and then there was me. I don't know exactly when it all started, probably as far back as I can remember, but my parents never missed an opportunity to compare me to Caroline. And it wasn't just that they compared me, it was the way they did it. You know what I mean? My mom literally told me things like I was ugly, that I needed to fix myself up more, that why couldn't I be pretty like Caroline? My dad was equally cruel, but in a more, academic way. He always asked me why I couldn't get Caroline's grades, why I wasn't as smart as her, basically making me feel like I was a disappointment in every possible way. The worst part is that it wasn't just in private. My parents made these comments in front of other relatives, neighbors, whoever. I remember once at a family dinner, I was like 14 years old, and my mom literally told my aunt, in front of me, that it was a shame I hadn't inherited the family's beauty genes like Caroline. Just like that, as if I wasn't there, as if I didn't have feelings. And Caroline never said anything. Sometimes, she even laughed at the comments. The thing is that this continued for years. At school, I tried to excel at something, anything, but nothing was enough for my parents. If I got a 90, why wasn't it a 100 like Caroline? If I won some award in art or technology, which were the things I liked, they didn't care because it wasn't something prestigious, like the things Caroline did. They literally made me feel invisible and ugly and stupid throughout my entire adolescence. It got to a point where I was so bad that a school counselor noticed. I think I was like 15, almost 16, when she noticed something wasn't right with me. I don't remember exactly what alerted her, but she called me to her office one day and started asking me questions. At first, I didn't want to talk. I mean, how do you explain to someone that your own parents make you feel like trash? But she was persistent, in a good way, and eventually it all came out. I told her about the comments, the comparisons, how I felt in my own house. She arranged therapy for me through the school, which honestly I think saved me. My parents weren't happy when they found out. They said I was exaggerating, that they just wanted me to be better. That therapy was for people with real problems. But the counselor basically told them that either they let me go or she would have to report certain things. I'm not sure exactly what, but it worked. So I went to therapy for like 2 years, and that helped me understand that the problem wasn't me, that what they were doing to me was wrong. But living in that house was still hell. Caroline graduated from college when I was 17, and my parents threw her a huge party, invited everyone, spent a ton of money. When my 18th birthday came around, literal months later, what my parents did was horrible. They organized a party that basically turned into another celebration of Caroline's achievements. She had just gotten some recognition or whatever, and my parents spent the whole night talking about that. My own birthday, and nobody congratulated me. It was the moment when I said, enough is enough. I moved out like 2 weeks later. I had saved money from part-time jobs. It wasn't much, but enough for the deposit on a room I rented. My parents didn't even try to stop me. In fact, my mom said something like, maybe it was for the best, that this way I'd learn how hard real life was. They didn't offer me help, didn't ask if I'd be okay, nothing. Caroline didn't say anything either. I guess for her, I was just one less nuisance in the house. The next few years were tough but also liberating. I worked full-time while going to college, studying computer science and graphic design. My parents didn't come to my graduation, said they had other commitments, and obviously never offered help with tuition. I paid for everything with student loans and working, basically survived on ramen and coffee for 4 years. But I did it. I graduated with honors, got a good job at a tech company, and started building my life away from them. During all that time, like 6 years, I had almost no contact with my family. Occasional calls at Christmas, generic birthday messages. That was it. And honestly, I was fine with that. I had made peace with the fact that I would never have the family I wanted, and I was focused on my career and being happy. Then I met William. I was working at this tech company as a software engineer and graphic designer, and one day, like a year and a half ago, I had to do a presentation about a project at an executive meeting. William was there. He's the CEO and founder of the company, and at the end of the presentation, he congratulated me on my work. We started talking more, first just work stuff, but then like a connection emerged, you know? It's hard to explain, but I felt that for the first time in my life, someone saw me. Really saw me. Not just my appearance or my achievements, but who I was as a person. We started dating after a few months of knowing each other. He knew about my family. I told him everything from the beginning because I didn't want to hide that part of my life. William was incredible about it. Never pressured me to reconcile with them, just supported me in whatever I decided. We fell in love, and the truth is that with him I felt complete in a way I had never experienced. Like a year into dating, William took me to Paris. I thought it was just a vacation, you know. He travels a lot for work and had invited me. One night we were at this restaurant with a view of the Eiffel Tower, all super romantic, and suddenly he knelt down and pulled out a ring. I don't remember exactly everything he said because I was in shock, but basically he asked me to marry him. Obviously I said yes. I was crying and laughing at the same time. It was perfect. And when we came back and started telling people, I posted a picture of the ring. On social media, nothing too elaborate, just a simple photo. I hadn't talked to my family in months at that point, but suddenly, like 2 days after posting the photo, messages start coming in. First my mom, then my dad, then Caroline, all super excited, congratulating me, saying they had to catch up, that they missed me so much. At first I thought, well, maybe this is genuine. Maybe they're trying to reconnect. I'm optimistic by nature. Or stupid, I'm not sure. I responded to them and agreed to see them. We went to a fancy restaurant, William and I, my parents, and Caroline, and that's where things got weird. My mom wouldn't stop asking questions about William, about his work, about how much he made, basically. My dad did the same, but trying to be more subtle. Caroline was quiet, which was strange for her, just looking at William in a way that made me uncomfortable. At one point, my mom said, well, now that you're going to marry someone so successful, surely you'll have a beautiful wedding. And I said, yes, that we were planning something nice but not huge. And then she said, well, obviously we're going to be involved in everything. We're your family after all. That's where it started. Literally the next few days, they wouldn't stop calling me with suggestions for the wedding. They wanted to invite I don't know how many people. They wanted the wedding to be at some super expensive place. They wanted this and that. And when I told them that William and I had our own ideas, my mom said something that left me frozen. She said, well, but you're going to pay for everything, right? Since you have so much money now. And I was like, excuse me, what? You don't even live with me? Why would I assume I'd pay for your stuff? So they started pressuring me to pay for their dresses, for their flights if they needed to travel for dress fittings, for everything. And not just that. My dad literally asked me if I could lend him money for some project or whatever. And when I told him I had to talk to William about it because we were combining our finances, he got upset. He said I should help my family now that I could, that they raised me and I owed them. It was my maternal aunt, my mom's sister, who completely opened my eyes. She had always been kinder to me than the rest of the family, though we hadn't been in much contact during my college years. She called me one day and said she needed to talk to me urgently. We met at a coffee shop, and she told me something that left me in shock. Turns out my parents and Caroline were planning something horrible. My aunt had overheard a conversation between them where basically they were scheming about how to get money from me and also wanted to make a scene at my engagement party. The plan was for Caroline to wear an expensive necklace of my mom's, pretend I had stolen it, and make a public drama to humiliate me in front of William and his friends and family. The idea was that if they made me look like a thief and a liar, William might reconsider marrying me. Or at least I'd be so desperate to fix things that I'd give them what they wanted. I couldn't believe it. I mean, I knew my parents were cruel, but this was another level. My aunt told me she couldn't stay quiet, that what they were planning was evil. I thanked her 1,000 times and told William everything immediately. He was furious, wanted to confront them right away. But I had a better idea. We organized the engagement party as planned, at William's parents' house, which is basically a mansion. We invited my parents and Caroline, acted like everything was normal. During the party, William and I had his security team. Yeah, he has a security team, keeping an eye on my family. And exactly as my aunt had said, Caroline showed up with the necklace, and like halfway through the party, my mom started screaming that her super expensive necklace was missing. She made a whole show, crying, saying it was a family heirloom, looking accusingly toward where I was. Caroline found the necklace in my purse, which they had left in a room. My mom started yelling at me in front of everyone, saying how could I have done that to her, that I was a thief, that William needed to know who I really was. But here comes the best part. William stepped forward and said, "It's funny you mention that, because we have security cameras throughout the house," and he showed the video on a big screen. There was Caroline, clear as day, taking the necklace out of her own purse and putting it in mine. The look on my parents' and Caroline's faces was, I have no words. It was a mixture of horror and shame. The guests were in shock. William told them they had exactly 2 minutes to leave his property or he'd call the police. My dad tried to say something, to make excuses, but William didn't give them a chance. They left, basically running, and all the guests who saw that supported us completely. It was vindicating and dramatic. But I felt that for the first time in my life someone defended me like that. I thought that would be the end, that they'd understand the message and leave me alone. But like 2 weeks later, my mom called me crying. She said she was so sorry, that they had made a terrible mistake, that Caroline had convinced her to do that they were financially desperate. Basically, she tried to blame Caroline for everything. And I, being the fool I am sometimes, thought, maybe they're being genuine now. Maybe they hit rock bottom. I decided to give them another chance, but with clear boundaries. I told them they could come to my dress fitting and that I'd buy bridesmaid dresses for my mom and Caroline if they behaved. I went to this super fancy boutique with them and my aunt, and honestly my aunt was trying to warn me with her eyes, but I wanted to believe they could change. I bought them beautiful dresses, like the kind that cost several $1,000s each, and they were super excited. During that day, they acted perfectly, saying how pretty the dresses were, how beautiful I looked, everything that supposedly a loving family would say. We left there and I felt hopeful, like maybe we could have some kind of relationship after all. But then came what basically destroyed any possibility of reconciliation. Like a week later, I got a call from my mom. I answered, and at first I couldn't hear anything. Then I realized it was a butt dial. You know, when someone calls without meaning to because the phone is in their pocket. I was going to hang up, but then I heard voices. It was my mom and Caroline, and they were talking about me. What I heard destroyed me. Caroline was saying things like, "Did you see her face when we told her how beautiful the dresses were? She acts like she's a princess now, but she's still the same ugly girl she always was." And my mom was laughing and said, "I know, it's pathetic. She thinks because she's marrying money now, she's suddenly special. But he's only with her because she's probably easy to manipulate." They went on like that for several minutes, saying horrible things about my appearance, my personality, about William, about everything. I recorded the whole conversation before hanging up. I was shaking, crying, couldn't breathe properly. William came home and found me a mess on the living room floor. I showed him the recording and watched his face go from confusion to absolute anger. He wanted to go confront them immediately, but I asked him to wait, that I had to think about what to do. A few days later, my dad called me, and what he said confirmed everything. He told me I needed to remember my place, that I come from a family that raised me, and that now that I had access to money, it was my responsibility to help them. He literally asked me to lend him $50,000. I asked him what for, and he said that wasn't my problem, that it was just my duty as a daughter. When I told him no, he got furious and started yelling at me that I was ungrateful, that after everything they had done for me, this is how I repaid them. I decided then that I was going to give them one last chance to show who they really were, but this time I'd document everything. I organized my bachelorette party and invited my mom and Caroline. I had it at a nice place, hired photography and video, the typical stuff. Throughout the party, they acted sweet in front of the other guests, but when they thought nobody was recording them, they made cruel comments to each other that the cameras captured perfectly. At one point, the cameras caught them in the bathroom, talking about how they were going to ask me for more money before the wedding, laughing about my wedding dress, saying William probably cheated on me with someone prettier. Caroline literally said, "When they get divorced, and they're going to get divorced because look at her, at least we'll have gotten some money out of this situation." Everything was recorded, with perfect audio. But the worst came after. Like 2 days after my bachelorette party, I start getting messages from people I know asking me what happened. Turns out my family had posted on Facebook a series of posts, like 5 long posts, saying the most horrible things about me. They said I was a manipulative liar, that I had seduced my boss for money, that I was threatening them, that I had stolen from them, that I was a bad person who had cut contact with her loving family just because I had money now. They even posted my phone number, and I started getting calls and messages from strangers, some threatening me. That was the limit. I uploaded the videos from the engagement party with the necklace, the recording of the butt dial, and the videos from my bachelorette party to my social media. I wrote a long post explaining my whole history with them, without dramatizing, just the facts. I didn't ask for pity, just told the truth. The response was overwhelming. People supported me completely. Many shared my posts, exposing what my family had tried to do to me. I sent them a final message. I told them they were no longer invited to my wedding, that I didn't want to hear from them again, and that if they tried to show up, security had instructions to remove them. My dad responded with more empty legal threats. My mom tried to make more drama on social media, but by that point people had already seen the videos and nobody believed her. Caroline blocked me on everything without saying anything. I thought that was the end, but no. On my wedding day, which was like 4 months ago, my mom and Caroline had the audacity to show up. They arrived wearing the expensive dresses I had bought them, thinking that would give them entry. The venue security stopped them at the entrance, told them they weren't on the list and couldn't come in. They started screaming, making a scene, saying they had a right to be there because they were family. What happened next was almost comical. The venue had automatic sprinkler systems, and turns out when they were making the scene outside, they somehow activated the system in that area. Their dresses, those $1,000 dresses, got soaked and ruined. They finally left, screaming that I was going to pay them for the dresses, threatening lawsuits. All the drama you can imagine. My wedding was perfect. My aunt walked me down the aisle, and when they asked who was giving me away, she said proudly that she did it on behalf of everyone who truly loved me. I cried, obviously, but they were tears of happiness. William and I said our vows surrounded by people who genuinely cared about us, and there was no more drama the rest of the day. It's been a few months since then. My family tried to contact me a couple more times after the wedding, but I blocked them on everything. Now I'm pregnant, like 3 months, and when William and I announced it recently, my aunt was the first to congratulate us. We haven't told anyone else from my family and don't plan to. My aunt is going to be part of our baby's life. She'll be the grandmother he or she needs. Sometimes I still process everything that happened. I'm not going to lie and say I'm completely fine, that it didn't affect me. There are days when I think about what it would have been like to have a normal family, parents who loved me for who I am, a sister I could have a real relationship with. But then I see the life I built. I see William. I think about our baby coming, and I realize I don't need validation from people who never saw me as their equal. The therapist I see now tells me it's normal to feel this mix of relief and sadness, relief from having cut off toxic people, sadness for the family I never had but deserved. I guess that's what I live with now. And it's okay. Not everything has to have a perfect ending where everyone reconciles and is happy. Sometimes the happy ending is knowing you have the power to walk away from what hurts you and build your own family, your own happiness. My aunt told me something on my wedding day that stuck with me. She said that family isn't always the people who share your blood, but the people who would be willing to bleed for you. And looking around me now, I see that I have that family. I have William. I have my aunt. I have incredible friends. I have a baby on the way. That's enough. More than enough. I don't know if my parents or Caroline will ever realize the damage they caused, if they'll ever feel genuine remorse. Honestly, I don't care anymore. I spent too many years of my life trying to earn their approval, trying to be enough for them, and now I finally understand that the problem was never me. They have to live with the decisions they made, with the opportunities they destroyed, with the fact that they chose greed and cruelty over having a real relationship with me. I chose to move forward. I chose to build something better. And that's my victory at the end of the day.